Okay, back there.
It is 4:00. We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand to sing O Canada. Please be seated. I'll ask the clerk for the roll call.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dickert,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking is absent this evening, Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable, Councillor Brandon Cable,
Present.
Councillor Susan Sackle.
Present. Thank you, Vicki. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires, known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, March the 17th, 2025. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? As always, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. We do not have any additions or deletions to the agenda, nor do we have a public meeting, so we'll move right into our delegations. And we have Mark Rogan, who is chair of the Hanover and District Hospital Foundation. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Sue. Mayor Sue, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry I can't be there. I'm battling the flu and a cold, and it seems to be hanging on for over 3 weeks. But that's okay. It's with COVID, we now appreciate Zoom meetings a lot more. So I've sent in the audited financial report, which was for 2023, only because we haven't had our 2024 audited report yet. But I have in front of me our financial report for 2024, and I just wanted to point out a few things before I get started. That as of December 31st, our assets totaled balance sheet assets, $6,110,000, which is an increase of over $431,000 from the year before. And this year, last year, our three major events were the Spring Appeal, the Bruceite Bingo, and the Radiothon, and that generated gross revenues of almost $83,000. And our Christmas mail-out campaign, as of the end of December, was around 22,000, but I can tell you now that it's, I believe, over 40,000 after January. It was a little delayed because of the mail strike, so we've had a pretty good year. But let me move right into physician recruitment and retention. So in 2024, Dr. Pablo Garcia signed with the hospital. He was on his third year of tr residency training for anesthesia. So Dr. Garcia is practicing family medicine, working the ER and anesthesia. So it's taken a huge burden off some of our doctors, especially in the anesthesia. We still are struggling in our ER with a lot of reasons for that. Of course, everybody knows the different closures around the area in two local hospitals for their ER in the evening has made it a lot busier in our hospital. And intermittent closures by other hospitals makes it difficult. With the summer coming, it will pick up a lot more of the holiday traffic. So we're struggling again with ER. Filling all the shifts. So our physician recruitment and retention committee is looking to acquire two doctors who we will hope will come to our area to practice family medicine and emergency room medicine. Um, Again, we're going to look at hiring a recruiting firm to help us with that part of it. Um, I'm fairly confident that we'll be successful. We also rely on our residency program. We have three new residents starting in June. Two actually are starting in June. One's delayed a bit longer, and one of them is actually from Kincardine, a homegrown resident from Kincardine. Uh, so we'll see how that pans out for us. We've picked up a new project this year, partnering with Queen's University, Kingston. And that's a hosting a clerkship of two medical students in 14-week blocks. And that is actually, no, it's three medical students each time. Three medical students will come in 14-week blocks. One block is June to September, the other is September to December, and then January to April 2026. These are no, sorry, it is two. These are two at each time. They're year three medical students. So this is a new venture for us, but we think as well that it'll introduce a lot more later on, like in their later years of study, medical students to the rural practice here. So that will hopefully pan out for us. We'll find out, I guess, but it's really good for the area. The biggest challenge has been housing. That because we have to provide housing for it. And we do have the residency house that we have for our residents. So I have found some apartments. We put an ad on Facebook on Friday, and we already had five or six um, people contact us for apartments. So it's the reception has been very good. We paid our laparoscopic tower campaign was complete, so we've moved right on to a new venture, the fluoroscopy machine for the diagnostic imaging unit, which is an $800,000 purchase. So this is a big one for us. And this year is a gala year, which is in the end of May, May 31st at the uh, oh crap, what's the name of that place again? I always forget. Um, oh gosh. Anyways, it's uh, the Enchanted Garden. We're hoping to raise $100,000 at this gala to help go towards this campaign. And I think that's pretty well it. I know that I can tell you that over 30% of our ER visits last year had to utilize the use of a fluoroscopy. So it's a very important piece of machinery. I did notice that your new strategic plan has a health component to it, and again, directly points out continuing to supporting local healthcare and for attracting and retaining physicians to our area. So I was very happy to see that. And of course, that's why I look to the town to help support R&R and our foundation. Um, I think that's likely all I can tell you right now. I don't think there's anything else. I guess we have Discovery Week as well. We have Discovery Week in late May, which is first year medical students. They've been coming here for years. We get two blocks of them, one week and then the week after, of four medical students in their first year. They have to complete 1 week at a rural hospital before they graduate. So I always look forward to that every year as well. In fact, Aaron, our medical student from Kincardine, was one of our Discovery students 4 years ago. I think that's about it. Any questions from anybody?
Thank you, Mark. We always appreciate an update on recruitment and retention of our for our hospital. So
Thank you, Sue.
Council, any questions, comments? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Mark, for your report. Just a couple of things. The money, the 90,000 that goes towards the hospital, like physician recruitment, physician retention, capital projects, is that money split between the three projects, or does it go directly to physician recruitment?
Well, it actually, Harold, it goes into the general account first, and then, I guess it depends on the need. So if we had, like we are right now, let's say hiring a recruiting firm, which is an expensive venture, the majority of that money would actually go towards that for this particular term. But if we have a year where we don't need any of the funds at all for recruitment, although we do use it in retention for retention. But if we didn't need any at all for recruitment, we would use that money towards our capital equipment campaign. So it's always being used every year. You know what? It's hard for me to pick it out and show it to you, Harold, because we have a melting pot of $6 million there. But we use the interest from that account, and then we use the money that we raise in the year and the money, of course, that is given to us by the town to help cover all of the expenses in a year. But I will tell you that the majority of it actually goes to recruitment retention and the house. This year, for instance, last year, house expenses were a little bit more. We had trouble with the washing machine, the microwave, and we had to get a whole new roof put on, fixing the fence. So we ended up having a lot more than, like over 25,000 in expenses. So it helps us prepare for some things like that as well. Does that help answer your question, Harold?
Yeah, thank you very much. And, we hear on the street, as all of us do, that, it's everybody's looking for a doctor, I guess. And, that's the biggest concern among our residents, I think, looking for a family doctor. And how many, just one more question, how many doctors would we have total in our hospital and our medical clinic?
Well, gosh, I think there's, is it maybe 14? Now I might be counting a couple of our two surgeons in there as well, but I believe 14, I think 12 in the clinic. We have room for two more. We have two full positions available where we can fit two more. We have a lot of orphan patients, Harold, as well. I mean, I believe we have at least 2,000 orphan patients, so hiring two more doctors would really help clean that up, or a lot of it anyways. Because most doctors will roster, at least 900 patients, so that would help considerably. But I do realize there is still a large orphan patient problem, and that's the whole idea of actually looking to recruit. We were going to recruit one, and then we decided just recently we would look to recruit two doctors, which I think would be great, because that will probably, if we get two doctors also practicing ER, that will help clean up two problems. It'll help clean up a lot of the orphan patient, and it allows also alleviate the extra stress we have in our ER. And picking up a lot of the ER traffic as well is orphan patients. So when you are able to find doctors for their orphan patients, that reduces the amount of times that they'll be going to the ER. So it helps both ways.
And just thanks for all you do up there, because it's our community wouldn't be the town we are without our hospital and medical team. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Harold.
Councillor Sackle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mark, for your report. I'm sure you're aware then that we faced a little bit of grief, as Harold said, when the Walkerton Legion had the lineups there with people looking for new doctors. And certainly that gives us some pressure, and we need to make the right decisions with money in that. And it sounds like, from what I understand, you're a bit of a one-man show, Mark. You're doing an awful lot. I want to know if there's been any progress made in terms of the recruitment committee.
Thanks, Susan. You know, we ran into a bit of a snafu when our chair had to leave the board. And when that happened, things kind of got laid aside for a bit. Mind you, when we did that, we were, at that time, we had hired 3 part-time ER docs, and we had Pablo in his third residency year, Dr. Garcina's third residency year, coming back. So it looked like it was going to be okay, and so probably the need to meet at that time wasn't as great. But then, you know, things happen, and when we're heavily weighted in female physicians and we have maternity and paternity leaves, and you know, vacations and sabbaticals and everything else come up, it all of a sudden you're in crisis mode again. So yeah, I can tell you this, and I know Dana, our CEO, thinks I'm kidding, but I'm not. I'm giving my 2 years notice. I'll be done in 2 years. I'm going to be moving to Cargill to live beside my 2 grandchildren, where I think I'm going to enjoy that time. So when that happens, this committee is going to be hopefully up to full steam, but you're going to have to find yourself a physician recruiter, and that's where I think it's going to be difficult. Most communities hire a physician recruiter. They pay them. They're either paid by the town or they're paid by the physician group, which was the way it was run in Durham, for instance, but different. It's paid by was paid by Bruce Power and Kincardine, then it was taken over by the town. So things will likely change in a couple of years when that happens. I'm hoping that to have a good transition period before that happens. But I think the problems are never going to go away, Susan, because I've been here for since 1996, and I can tell you that every single year, and I'm sure Sue will tell you this, we've had problems in the ER where we're always struggling to fill the shifts. Even when we think we have enough doctors, there's just always something happens, and so it's a constant battle. I cannot remember one year, well, maybe 1 or 2 years, but hardly any years at all where we haven't been, you know, looking for doctors to fill the ER. I think we have had orphan patients since I've moved here in 96. I think we've always had orphan patients. We've never been able to solve that one. Having a recruiting committee is going to help with that. It's a good partnership that we have. And I'll tell you something, it's a partnership that a lot of communities don't have, and they're missing out. I look at Aurelia. You know, I was reading in the paper in January that the town of Aurelia had approved the creation of a working group to assess the feasibility of a city-run medical clinic where they hire the doctors themselves. The doctors bill OHIP, and then that money goes to the town, but in a town-held facility as employees. So it's getting desperate out there. And when a city like Aurelia has to do that, that'll scare you a bit. It'll give you an idea what's going to happen in our area. But this clerkship affiliation with Queens, I think is going to hopefully help fill that gap. I think that's going to work out well for us. I think, honestly, I mean, I'm biased because I live here, but I think we're kind of like the best kept secret when it comes to hospitals. Anybody who comes here as a resident will tell you they want to stay here. I mean, I know some of them can't for family reasons and other reasons, but a lot of them want to stay here. We've got a great hospital, a great town. So I think recruiting is easy in that respect, that we have our residency program, and this clerkship will make our doctors even busier. I mean, there's a lot of credit to our doctors who already mentor, precept our students, our residents, and now are going to be working with the students. So it's created a lot more work for them, but I think they see in the long run how it's going to work out. So these are things that the new physician recruitment committee will be working with. Right now, we're going to focus on just trying to hire 2 new doctors. But after that, it's going to be, I think, a lot more work on retention. Yes, retention is very important, and always having a plan in place. But I think at some point, yeah, you're going to have to probably figure out who's going to pay the money to hire a recruiter.
Thank you so much for all of that feedback, Mark. That was excellent. And feel better soon.
Thank you.
Any other, Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Mark, for all of your knowledge and commitment to this for the last number of years.
Thank you,
Wondering
Karen.
if you can maybe shed a little light on the type of expense that you're anticipating for the recruitment consultant?
Well, it depends. Okay, so I think it's like maybe like 25 grand to hire them. And then, but on top of that are things like when you depends on the publications you want to go in. So you want to go in, I would say University of Western's publication that all the medical students read. So each one or each area that you pick can cost, it depends, anywhere from $1,200 to $3,000. So there are expenses on top of that. And then if you get a physician who's looking to come to our hospital, but they live in, I don't know, like Alberta or BC or something, well, we got to pay to fly them here and, and host them for the weekend, put them up. So there's all these ancillary expenses that come up with the recruiting. It's not just, yeah, they don't, I mean, they're certainly not going to, and our doctors too want to see them working in the ER. We had one that we were looking at 2 years ago, and that's exactly what we did. We flew him here. He worked, I think, a couple of days of shifts, like 2 8-hour shifts in the ER, so we could see if he melded well with our physicians and our nursing staff and the rest of the technicians. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly dollar for dollar, Carol, but you can imagine when we're looking at hiring, bringing a physician in, it's not just the recruiting firm itself. It's like you don't want to miss out on a publication, and these things go up. But it's also the expense to pay for a doctor or a doctor and their family to come and have a look at our town. We've had these ever since I started. I mean, these used to be expenses that the hospital paid. But when you have a hospital, running in the red, you can't be paying these things.
That's good information. I think it's good for the general public to realize all of those things as well. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Carol.
Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mark, for providing the update. I think it's interesting when you talk about being the best kept secret, right? And I think how do we get out of that bubble? Even when you're talking about Dr. Garcia joining the hospital, I think sometimes we just don't perhaps publicize the good things that are happening and really try to show people, that there are efforts underway for recruitment and the fruits of your labor. So I do really appreciate your update, and certainly I would be very supportive of our funds going towards things like this recruitment consultant who can hopefully help us to recruit a couple of doctors to help fill the gaps that we currently have. So I do think that would be a good use of the $90,000 along with your other retention efforts.
Thank you, Brandon. I'll segue into that when you mentioned about when I was talking about the best kept secret. I will tell you this as well, that we've hired a firm to help work on a strategic plan. Something that we haven't done before, but that the hospital did recently, and I know the town does all the time, does a 5-year strategic plan. So we've decided it's about time we've done that. And that's one of the components of it, is how do we get our message out to the community better? And not just our community, and how do we reach outside of our area? Because let's face it, our hospital handles from a donation aspect and from asking for funds for a gala coming up in May 31st. Make sure you're all there. That's the other thing is, it's hard when you tax your local citizens and your local businesses all the time. So we're looking at reaching out, getting our fingers reaching out a lot further. Um, and with our strategic plan, looking to get our message out there as well. So we'll see how that works out for us. It's on hold right now because Maya is on maternity leave, and we decided we should wait because she'll be the one working and implementing the plan more. So we're waiting till she gets back.
Okay, that's it. Councillor Cable, I would think.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Thank-
Brandon.
Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mark. And I as well appreciate everything you do for the recruitment and the retention side of things. I've had the chance to see you in action at some of the recruitment sessions, and you are certainly heart and soul into this. So thank you for that.
Thank you,
The
Warren.
only thing I wanted to add was, which I learned at the meeting last week, is the MedQuest camp. You know, the hospital is doing everything they can to attract people at a young age. So July 14th to 18th, they have the MedQuest camp they're hosting here for grades 9s to 12. And then they also have the co-op program they run all year. So I think it's just important that everybody knows that all of that is going on in the background as well, starting this recruitment process at a young age. And just didn't want to have that go unnoticed. So again, thanks for all you do, and get feeling better.
Thanks, Warren. I forgot about that MedQuest because we just started that this year. So yes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for our physicians too, who are already picking up the besides the residents, picking up the clerkship, and also doing that for an entire week, full time for 30 students. It's going to be great. But thanks, Warren. I forgot to mention that. Yes, I'm looking forward to that too.
Okay, one final question from me, Mark. In the 2025 budget of the town's budget, we have funding set aside for physician recruitment and retention. Can you clarify that's where the money is going to go? Is it going to go to capital?
It's going to go to physician recruitment. I can tell you that it'll definitely 100% go to recruitment.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. We appreciate this update, as do our residents. Maybe we should have you come more often. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
All right, moving on. Item 8, we do not have any business arising from the minutes. So item 9, council and committee of the whole minutes. The first one, 9.1, is the regular council meeting minutes from February 18th. I need a mover and seconder before I just highlight a couple of items. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Fleet. And I just want to highlight, I think, 2 things. We approved the Eat Well Farmers Market Agreement for 2025 to 2027, and we also approved a bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department in the town of Hanover. And that's it for highlights. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Item 9.2, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. I need a mover and seconder to put those on the floor. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Hudson. And that was March the 3rd. So we approved the electric vehicle charging station host agreement. And we also proclaimed the month of April as Organ and Tissue and Blood Donation Month in the town of Hanover. And there will be a donor flag flown at the Civic Center here from April 20th to the 26th. And the Civic Center will be lit in green for that week. And that's the only highlights I have from those minutes, unless there's questions. If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Item 10 is staff reports. 10.1 is Report PW 0525. The subject is the reconstruction of 7th Street and 13th Avenue Easterly. It's from Ron Cooper, our Director of Public Works, and I'll take a mover and seconder for that report. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Hudson. Ron?
Thank you, Worship. This report relates to the tendering that's been done recently for the reconstruction of the 7th Street to 13th Avenue easterly project to get it moved towards the construction stage of the project. The reconstruction of 7th Street from 13th Ave easterly has been identified as a priority in the town's asset management plan due to deteriorating road conditions and aging infrastructure, and the project has been approved in the 2025 capital project. The project involves replacement of sanitary, water, and storm infrastructure, as well as road reconstruction, including curb and gutter, and in consideration of the town's sidewalk guidelines, a new sidewalk on the north side of the street will be installed. The engineering design part of it has been completed by Cobite Engineering with all approvals in place. As for the tendering, that occurred throughout February, and there was 8 tenders received by the closing deadline of 2 p.m. on Wednesday, January 26th. We had a great response to that tender. The tenders were reviewed by Cobite for completeness and accuracy, which they have attached their breakdown with their recommendation accepting of the low bidder from Omega Contractors, Inc. Omega themselves have completed similar projects in Hanover, the most recent being the reconstruction of 11th Street from 17th to 21st Avenue, which was in 2023. Their quality of work and ability to work cooperatively with residents was favorable. Throughout the tender documents, it stipulates the project be completed by October 3rd of this year. Notice of the project has been forwarded to affected residents. A further notice will be provided to the residents once scheduling is confirmed. However, initial indication with the contractor is they would like to get going with a mid-April project start. So it's more or less just as soon as ground conditions get suitable for them to start, frost gets out of the ground, they're looking at having this as an early spring start for us. The financial implications of the project for budgeting purposes, the estimate used was $1,628,700, which included $100,000 contingency allowance. When the project was tendered, since the actual details were more known, we had a $50,000 contingency allowance in there. The tender by Omega was $1,432,626.56, which is under the budget amount by $196,073.44 or 12%. I've got a table which shows we break it down into 5 different categories in terms of type of work to be done in this type of project. Just to summarize that part of it, what I can say is the combination of all tax-related categories is under budget. The only category which is additional financing is required would be to complete the waterworks component of the project, which as per the tender is over expenditure by $15,440.21, which would come from water reserves. The link to the strategic plan is safe and reliable infrastructure and open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that report PW 0525 reconstruction of 7th Street from 13th Avenue easterly be received, and that the project be awarded to Omega Contractors, Inc. for a total cost of $1,432,626.56 plus HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to enter into a contract with Omega Contractors, Inc. for the reconstruction of 7th Street from 13th Avenue easterly. That's my report. It's good news in terms of tender response and low bidder price on, and I would be open to any questions that council would have.
Questions, comments? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. and Thank you, Ron. I just find it very interesting to see how many tenders were put in for this project. Maybe this is a sign of, maybe not a good sign that businesses or companies are starting to slow down a bit, but it's, $196,000 savings come under budget, and that's good for our community. So I just find it interesting and surprising how many tenders there were submitted.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ron, for the report. Just wondering, looking at the two tenders that were received, or there's quite a few that were received, but there was two that were very close together. Do we know, does Omega end up using all of their sub-trades from the London area? Or do we ever look at, the fact that we have one that is from the Owen Sound area, which is only slightly more than the lowest tender price?
I would just say that is the prime contractors that are bidding are the excavation work. They provide their people, but there is a lot of products which are bought. The bedding and bought, which is bought by granular suppliers, which would have local products for it. When it gets into the sodding and the topsoil part of that, that part of it ends up getting contracted out, and I know it's a local representative which is doing that work. So I think amongst of a lot of the work done, similar sub-trades are utilized, and there is a local component even in the excavation part in terms of materials that are utilized, purchased locally.
Thank you. And I know that we discussed this previously when looking at, I think it was the water tower tender. But could you remind me, I know that when we do hiring for the town of Hanover, there's a certain component in there that would be if you live within the town of Hanover, right, that would be considered. Do we ever look at like the location of contractors in terms of kind of their distance? Does that ever factor into our awarding of tenders?
So Councillor Cable, we do not provide advantageous scoring to a Hanover person who applies for a job. So that's first, right? Because we have to be open for all to be considered accordingly. And no, from a procurement point, there's nothing that we can, that indicates we can give added scoring just because they're local, basically. They have to be looked at from a transparent and fair process accordingly.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of PW 0525. That is carried. 10.2 is report PW 0625. The subject is the 2024 Drinking Water System Summary Report. It's from Ron Cooper, our Director of Public Works. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Sackle and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Ron?
Thank you, Worship. What you have before you is 2024 Drinking Water Summary Report. It has a number of pages in it. I believe it is, my math is right, 24 pages in length. So I'll try and give you a brief summary as much as I can. I have Ted Knapp on the line here as well. And, the bulk of the information that's provided is backup. It's coming directly from our Waterworks department as providing details throughout the year in this summary report. The background of the requirements of this is under Schedule 22 of the Ontario Drinking Water Regulation. 170-03 requires that members of council be provided with a report indicating specific details related to compliance and capacity of our system. and that this report be provided by March 31st of the following year. So this report deals with 2024. As he indicated, it was been prepared by our Chief Operator, Ted Knapp. It summarizes chemicals utilized in the water treatment process. And just to go over those, we use chlorine for disinfection. We have another product called PAX XL50 is to reduce aluminum in the water supply, as well as a coagulant to assist with filtration of both Rural Lake and well number 1. We utilized hydrogen peroxide for taste and odor from Rural Lake, which was utilized this year. Started a little earlier, but typically it's around the end of May and runs throughout the rest of the year. It started May 27th, and we were able to turn that system off on January 14th of this year. In terms of capacity requirements, when we get into supply, the maximum daily demand for the water that enters the plant was 5,592 cubic meters per day, which is 36.3% of our overall license capacity of 15,406 cubic meters. The supply that we used throughout the year actually was a decrease from the previous year. And I have talked to Ted about that. It was actually down, it was 139,400 cubic meters, which was 8.1%. The most significant part of that, close to 115 cubic meters, was less water, which we utilized to be wasted in our treatment process called process water to waste. And what Ted has done throughout the year is we've tried to optimize that. We've done some work on our filters to optimize the amount of water that we're filtering to waste. So it's an ongoing improvement thing. We work at the plant, tweaking things, but this year, probably happy to please that we were able to get that number down. I would say somewhat significantly out of that 8%, we probably dropped basically a 6% overall volume in terms of water that we've been able to process that would have been dumped to waste. The maximum daily demand of the flow from the plant that was utilized, 668 cubic meters a day, representing 44.3%. That occurred on August 9th. That was a process when we were continuing on with water main flushing. And also XL Door, they were off the week before that, but they were back online. That occurred that day. And I believe actually during that day, we had to shut down the water main flushing because we weren't able to kind of keep up with our processed water. So the details of that supply, and it gets down to, it shows it monthly details. It's on a number of pages that goes from page 29 to page 34 of the report. Another part that we discussed throughout this summer report is unaccounted for water. And that's a measurement which we take metered consumption coming out of our plant. And then also we take in the consumption that we're taking through all of the meters. And then we have a calculated amount, which would be for some sources which are unmetered. And that could be firefighting, water main breaks, which is an estimate, stuff that we use for hydrant flushing is another one, sweeping, and some areas which are non-metered to come up with an overall estimated unaccounted for the year. We've got that calculated as 8.58%, which is 121,839 cubic meters, a slight increase from the 8.33%. shown in 2023. But the overall target that the ministry looks at is is you're running good if you're under 10%. And we are on that in our through our system. There's another thing where we go through a number of pages here, and we provide the pump run times, flow rate, chemical dosages. That's on page 36, 37 of the report. Nothing specifically to detail about that. Further on, we have to provide you with all our mycological test result, which occurs weekly, show all our sampling sites. That runs on pages 38 to 46 of the report. We also report on quarterly test results, which is 47 and 48 of the documentation provided. Another one, which is shown on page 49, there's 2 tests which we do, and we keep a running total throughout the year. These are typically quarterly test results that we have done. However, we had showed a trend starting in May of a slight increase in that, so we took a further sample of that just to kind of check where we are throughout the year on that. One of them is that we check on is trihalmethanes, which that has got a requirement where to meet 100 micrograms per liter. Our running average on that, and let me check on that quantity, was 59 micrograms per liter per year. So we're well under the 100. Another one that we do is a check on that is called acetic acids. The requirement of that is to meet 80 micrograms per liter, and we were 27.3 running average per liter. The importance of these 2 things is it's a check on byproducts, disinfection byproducts in the treatment process, and they have requirements that we have to be below certain averages, which we are. They're kind of both taken at different places in our distribution system. The trihalmethylanes, we sample that at the furthest point in our distribution system, which is actually in our industrial park at the workshop. The closest point, which what we've calculated, which would be in our distribution system for the acetic acid testing, is actually at the 7th Avenue Tower, but both of those meeting the requirements of the standard. This report will be made available at the Public Municipal Office and the Public Information document for the website, as well as we'll be indicating information on water bills that go out of locations to access this. The link to the strategic plan is safe and reliable infrastructure, healthy and welcoming community, and open and responsible government. The recommendation is the report PW 0625 drinking water system report be received, that council acknowledge receipt of this report as per section 22 of Ontario Regulation 17003, and the report be made available at the municipal office. If council would have any specifics I could address, or if it gets technical, I'll have to rely on Ted to more appropriately research the answers for you. But all in all, I would say a good report, and we've made some improvements in 24, trying to reduce the amount of processed water that we generate to waste. But it's a factor that's always in there, and as I say, always making improvements to try and tweak things to optimize the system.
Thank you, Ron. Are there any comments, discussion? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ron. It says we're at 36% of the capacity, but you can only go run it at 65%. So I guess if my math's anywhere close to right, we're getting close to 70% of what we can do. How soon are we looking at needing to expand that plant? Are we, is it 10 years out, 20 years out? And second question is supply, is our supply able to keep up with that growth as well? So I don't know if those are things you can answer off the top of your head there, but
I would say in terms of treatment process, we would be probably maybe closer to the 10 years part out on having to tweak some things in that regard. In terms of overall supply, I would say that I think a big key for us is the rural lake one. We have there is a limit on that based upon the filters come into there, but I think there is more capacity for us to be able to tap into in terms of the rural lake process without having to research and look for another source, which I think is a good thing for the future. So overall, I would think we're in pretty good process moving forward.
thank you. And if we're looking at roughly 10 years out, how big a process? Because I'm sure there's environmental issues and everything you have to go through to plan an expansion, no different than our wastewater plant. It's quite a bit of lead time. So when would we be looking at possibly having to start that process?
Well, if I said the lead time was out 10 years, quite often it takes close to the 5 years. I know we've been working on the wastewater one for a few years in terms of that regard. So just seeing that, you probably could cut that down to if you're getting close, major changes like that can take up to 5 years to get through the process in terms of what it is and what we're looking at. So something to keep close tabs on for sure.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify, Ron? Water treatment plant, you're speaking that in 10 years we would need to expand? That's what you're suggesting? Or is the way I was interpreting what you said was that the treatment process we may need to tweak 10 years out. Am I interpreting what you're saying, and based on Deputy Mayor Dickert's question that expansion is the tweaking? Just if you can clarify that.
I would say it is expansion is the one that needs to be looked at more closely. And some of that stuff all takes time to research on exactly what would need to be done and the best approach for it.
Okay, no other hands raised, so I will call the question for receiving for report PW 0625. All in favor? Carried. 10.3 is report fire 0225. It is the municipal technical rescue agreement. It's from our fire chief, Chief Deniger, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sackle. Chief?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. As stated, this is report fire 0225, technical rescue agreement between Hanover and Southgate. The background is that the corporation of the Township of Southgate has requested consideration from the town of Hanover to provide technical rescue services of its fire department to Southgate on a fee-for-service basis. The fire agreement attached has been created specifically for technical rescue services for Southgate. These services would only be provided as needed on a fee-for-service. Most clauses are standard and found in similar town of Hanover fire service agreements. The schedules are attached. They are Schedule A is the area of coverage. That's both inside the yellow and orange boxes that are on the map. Schedule B is the services offered. Schedule C is the what's identified by Southgate upon dispatch to the location. Schedule D outlines the costs associated with the request for service. Schedule E details the crossing of jurisdictional boundaries. The agreement outlines that there should there be an emergency within the town of Hanover or lack of resources within HFD at the time of the request, the fire chief or designate can decline the request for resources. Financial implications, the fee for providing this service to Southgate will be at the current Ministry of Transportation rate per apparatus per hour. The cost is based on the fire department's first page from dispatch until the units are back in service, as indicated by dispatch. The link to the strategic plan is goal 1, safe and reliable infrastructure, and 5, open and responsible government. The recommendation is that report FI 0225 municipal technical rescue agreement between the town of Hanover and the township of Southgate be received, that council approve the attached agreement, and that council pass bylaw 3330-25 to authorize the signing of the municipal technical rescue agreement between the town of Hanover and the township of Southgate. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Jeff. Discussion, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Chief. Just wondering if you can clarify for me, is this the first such agreement with Southgate, or is this a renewal?
Through you, your worship, this is the first such agreement with Southgate.
Okay, Councillor Cable.
Thank you, your worship, and thank you, Chief, for the report. I know in the report it talks about some concerns around the road access and bridges, things like that. I'm just wondering if you're providing water rescue and rope rescue services, what kind of apparatus would you typically be taking with you?
Through you, your worship, we have redesigned our technical rescue so that we're only taking pickup trucks. So 2 pickup trucks would typically go to a water rescue or a high angle rescue. Any technical rescue really is 2 pickup trucks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Chief, for this report. Just a question, how many agreements do you have in place with other municipalities regarding technical rescue in our area?
Through you, your worship, we presently have 3. Aaron Eldersley, West Gray, and Brockton.
And you feel you can handle the third one with the amount of staff you have? And what if there's a call to Brockton and then one in Southgate? How do you handle that?
Through you, your worship, as outlined in the agreement, there is an opportunity for us to say we cannot attend the emergency in Southgate, whether that be a case of we're already in the town of Hanover at emergency, or in another municipality at an emergency, or even if we don't have enough staff. We always make sure that we have enough staff here to handle anything in Hanover first. If we have enough staff that we can send to Southgate, we will, but if we can't, then we won't.
Thank you. I just want to see you guys overwhelmed with calls and work, so thank you.
We have a comment from our clerk or question.
It's a clarification with the agreement. There was an update made this morning in agreement with Southgate with regard to the certificate of insurance. It was noted that Southgate, upon request, could ask for a certificate of insurance from the town of Hanover based on the reciprocal nature of the agreement, and to provide clarity, that was amended to state that the certificate of insurance could be provided by either party upon a request. So the motion will be the agreement be approved as amended.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor of FI 0225. That is carried. Thanks, Chief. Item 11 is committees of council minutes, and we have 5 sets of minutes plus subcommittee minutes. So I need a mover and seconder before we highlight those. Councillor Cable and Deputy Mayor Dickert. The first one, 11.1, is the new police station project team meeting minutes. And Councillor Hudson, to highlight, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The police station project met on Tuesday, February the 4th. We did a review of draft for request for proposal. And I understand the request for proposal deadline was March the 4th. Is that correct? Okay, I had to go back to my notes a little bit. And I believe we've received a number of those. Interview process starts next week. Is that also correct?
If it's deemed that an interview is necessary,
Okay.
then yes, that was the timing, I believe. I
Okay.
don't have those dates specifically in front of me, but if it's deemed that an interview should transpire, it's a fairly quick turnaround time for that.
So a consultant has been hired to complete the designated substances report required prior to the demolition of the old fire hall. The site work and testing were completed and a full report is to be expected probably this month, I'm thinking now. And then the information will be issued later on. And that was it for that meeting.
Okay, very good. I don't see any hands raised. 11.2 is the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. The committee met on February the 19th, and April Marshall provided an update on the criteria for the event fund development, which has provided $26,000 in grants to 14 events over the last 3 years. So the changes are as follows. New events are now eligible to receive up to $2,500. Growing events can receive up to $1,500, and returning events may receive up to $500, which is to be spent on marketing. April referenced the youth retention strategy meeting that has now taken place to determine how Hanover can promote youth retention. Saugeen Connects year in review. There were 5 municipalities have strengthened their partnerships. That would be Brockton, Hanover, Minto, Wellington North, and West Grey. She also highlighted some key initiatives like the Student Startup Program. And she talked about the Women of Wellington Saugeen area, also known as WOWSA, that featured or hosted 8 events throughout the year featuring a variety of activities that attracted 200 attendees and showcased some women-owned businesses. The committee supports the MOU, which was drawn up between the Town of Hanover and the Saugeen Economic Development Committee. Advancing Women Economically, known as AWE, has begun their 10-week webinar series, which aims to help women in business. She also highlighted the International Women's Day event, which occurred March the 5th at the Newstead Community Hall. The Made in Grey brand encourages local businesses to share branded materials to help boost local awareness and pride in Grey County. And then there were some updates from community members, which included the Chamber of Commerce Awards, which are now approaching, and nominations are open. The DIA is in discussion with the Fall Market Times and downtown revitalization initiatives. The Town of Hanover is hosting this year's Accelerated Now event, which will occur in the Community Hall in the Civic Center on March the 28th this year. This event is aimed at supporting newcomers, immigrants, and youth in starting businesses. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any. If you wouldn't mind continuing on.
I will do so, Your Worship. Thank you. Cultural Roundtable Committee met on Wednesday, January the 22nd. This is a small but mighty group. Brandon Dobson is organizing an Earth Day event on April the 22nd at the P&H Center. Submissions for the Recycled Art Contest for students will be due on Earth Day. There's going to be a joint cultural roundtable update, and it includes the Saugeen Cultural Guide that's available now on the Ontario Culture Days website. B, there's going to be a cultural symposium happening this year in the Harrison Library on May the 30th from 10 to 2. And C, and I'm really happy about this one, the Saugeen Culture Bus Tour will return on October the 4th with 3 buses of 20 participants traveling to 2 destinations in each of our communities. Our next joint meeting of the 3 municipalities is set for September the 25th here in Hanover. There will also be a Welcome Week in Hanover, September 12th to the 21st, and Culture Days will occur September 20th to October 12th. So stay tuned for more details on those events. Music in the Square will once again occur on the 2nd and 4th Saturday in June, July, and August. The Hanover Community Players are getting ready for their spring production of Bare Bones. Brandon Dobson is working on a volunteer fair for June the 17th at the P&H and Canada Day event on July 1st at Heritage Square. And finally, the Saugeen Artists Guild will be returning their Plein Air Painting Festival. It's going to happen July the 23rd to the 27th. Well, it looks like April has a correction for me or something.
Apologies. I was just updated that they are not returning the Plein Air Festival this year. They're going to return the Quick Paint event again this year.
Thank you. And I'm done. If there are any other questions.
Okay, Councillor Hudson.
I'm just wondering if you can tell us when the dates for the Home and Lifestyle Show. I didn't see that.
It's May the 24th and 25th, I think. Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it's like May 24th and 25th.
Okay, moving on. 11.3 is the Finance Committee meeting minutes from February 24th. That was the meeting where we had the delegation from Watson and Associates economists, and we learned about asset management and its future and our future. We're going to have a report come back at the April 7th Committee of the Whole meeting, which is good. 11.4 is the Planning Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Planning Advisory met March 11th. Councillor Sockel was a guest. It was nice to see a councillor out attending our meeting. So, and oh, sorry, you were there virtually. Sorry. Anyways, but Councillor Sockel was there in person. So, anyways, thank you both. Anyways, business arising from the minutes. Andrew Wilkin, the Secretary Treasurer, informed the committee that the minor variance application A4-24, which sought approval for a 2,800 square foot garage and storage area, received no appeals and was approved. The application has since applied for a building permit. And additionally, another minor variance application A5-24 for a 449 square foot accessory structure, all received no appeals and was granted approval. The application is applied for a building permit for this as well, and the site plan control agreement has been finalized for a 3-unit commercial building at 1092 10th Street, Hanover. The construction has commenced. Number 3, official plan update. Andrew informed the committee regarding the town of Hanover's official plan review process. A special meeting was scheduled for April 8th, and notice to the public meeting has circulated in accordance with requirements outlined in the Planning Act. Development charges. Andrew, our Secretary Treasurer, informed the committee that preliminary work on the development charge study has commenced. And as the assessment management study is integral part of the process, it serves as a foundation requirement for the understanding background development charges. A report on this asset management study was presented to Council February 24th Finance meeting, where additional information was requested. The next meeting is scheduled for April 7th, and if approved, further direction will be provided. In the meantime, the development charges study is ongoing with an estimated presentation to Council on May or June. Number 5 was a analyst parking. This was Crozier. This is from the town, and Lee Consulting, 612 10th Avenue. This would be the Dickies factory. Andrew informed the committee about the proposed redevelopment of the 612 10th Avenue. The property is zoned R53 to allow for manufacturing outlet. Initially, the owner informed the committee of their plan to develop 41 affordable resident apartments requiring 46 parking spaces and only 31 parking spaces provided. The applicant submitted a parking study demonstrating the feasibility of granting a minor variance for parking spaces. The town determined that it was prudent for us to conduct a peer review of their study for due diligence. Crozer Consulting Engineers were hired for the review and also found that the submitted study unsatisfactory. The application is considering revising the proposal, which may involve reducing the number of resident units to lower the parking spaces requirements. Minor variance may still be needed for a few parking spaces. The proposed development includes a mix of studio and two-bedroom apartments. Number 6, consent application B1-B325. This is 250156 Ontario Inc. This is 80120 20th Street, I guess it'd be. The Secretary Treasurer informed the committee about a consent application received from the town for 801 24th Street. The block is 124 within the plan, Saugeen Cedar West. The block regulated by the Saugeen Valley and contains wetlands, a tree retention area, and various natural heritage features. The application is proposing to sever a block into 4 lots. Construction of the single detached dwellings. At this time, the town has not received formal comments from Saugeen Valley. And number 7, environmental considerations. The Secretary Treasurer informed the committee that the town strategic plan includes an action with respect to establishing environmental advisory committee. The team staff has determined that this direction to include environment considerations with existing town committees, which would be Planning Advisory, Parks and Recreation, and Culture Advisory Committee, and Economic Culture and Tourism Committee. And new business, the Secretary Treasurer informed the committee that a building permit has been issued for the Ag Society for renovations to convert the existing structure into exhibition hall, and the police station tender for designing contract administration is set to close soon. Yeah, lots going on in planning. And additionally, he reported that 11 building permits have been issued so far, while growth has been slow in the first quarter is expected to gain momentum in the spring. Royal Residence are on the Queens Hotel property, 223rd 10th Street. Masonry work is 50% completed. And that's all I have to report from planning. So,
Thank you. Any discussion with those minutes? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for support. It's not really discussion. I want to just credit staff for looking at the environmental considerations and rather than creating a new committee, rolling it into the existing committees. I think that's a good use of time, and I just commend them for that action. So thank you.
Okay, 11.5 is the Emergency Management Program Committee minutes. And we have Chief Deniger to highlight those minutes. Chief?
Thank you, Your Worship. As indicated, this is the Emergency Management Program Committee minutes. We met on February 4th. The entire committee was present. We reviewed the minutes of our last meeting in October. The activities of the meeting included reviewing an update to the emergency management webpage that we've been working on. We reviewed the hazard identification and risk assessment. We reviewed the critical infrastructure list. We also reviewed our public education strategies for 2025. And we reviewed changing the Emergency Operations Center to the new fire station in the fall. We also discussed updating the emergency management bylaw within 2025. We also discussed the requirement of cable TV in the new station, and it was decided we did not require it. We talked about 2025 training as well as our 2025 mock, and we scheduled the next meeting in April. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I don't see any hands raised, so we're good. Thank you, Chief. So that was the last set of minutes, moved by Councillor Cable and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dickert. And the motion is to receive the information and approve the recommendations highlighted, or not highlighted, contained in those minutes. And I need a vote for that. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The next is our bylaws, and we have two. So I need a mover and seconder before I ask the clerk to give the intent of those bylaws. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Cable. Vicky, if you could give the intent, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 3329-25 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the February 18th regular council meeting. Bylaw 3330-25 is a bylaw to authorize an agreement between the Township of Southgate and the Town of Hanover for the provision of technical rescue services.
Thank you, Vicky. So it's been moved by Councillor Sackle, seconded by Councillor Cable, that bylaw numbers 3329-25 and 3330-25 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Okay, next is correspondence requiring action, and we have 13.1. Am I correct in that? So my numbers are off. 12.1. So this is correspondence from the municipality of Brockton requesting it's regarding the Hanover-Walkerton landfill agreement, and they are requesting consideration related to capital costs and cost sharing associated with the landfill agreement. So, Sherry, I'll ask you what's the next steps with that?
Well, two things. I would need council direction accordingly if you wish to consider this, and I would respond accordingly to Brockton. We can provide whatever your direction is as of tonight, or I can bring back a further report if you're interested. I did refresh my memory of the agreement today, and so it is an agreement that's been in place since 1992. And it was revised in 1999, but that was more to reflect the changes in name of Brockton due to amalgamation. It very specifically speaks to the involvement of both Brockton and Hanover in the agreement. It speaks to the Waste Management Committee and who's involved in that and how it operates. Very clear on the apportionment of costs, which says that the premise under which the landfill site and the Waste Management Committee operate when dealing with waste management issues, and that the parties to this agreement shall contribute to all operating, capital, closing, and reserve expenditures on a 50-50 basis. It also speaks to tipping fees and other rates, and specifically one of the notes that I want to make in this section is that when there is excess revenue over annual operating costs of the landfill, that those excess funds go into the reserve specifically to assist with landfill capital expenditures. I clarified with Chris Walker today that that is annually approximately $300,000 to $400,000 that goes to the landfill reserves, at least the last 3 to 4 years. That's what it's been. And for cell 3, which I believe is where this has prompted this inquiry, is the cell 3 that's due to happen this year, that we were using most of the reserves, and the 2025 expected amount towards that reserves. I know that Mr. Cooper, the tenders were opened for that project, and he'll be providing a very positive update to the Waste Management Committee next Tuesday at their meeting. And the last thing that I will note that I gleaned out of the agreement is that there's no clause that says we must review this every 5 years that I've seen in my review. But there is a specific, it says termination of existing agreement or new agreement. And around the new agreement, it says this agreement shall remain in force and effect on a continual basis and shall only be terminated or changed by way of the initial written consent of both parties as authorized by a validly enacted bylaw of the council of each party. So again, that's a high level overview of the agreement as it exists now. I'd be open to what council's wishes are here. Either we provide a reply after this evening, or you wish staff to bring back a follow-up report.
Discussion? Deputy Mayor Dickert?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree that we all benefit when we have great partnerships and agreements, and they need to be fair. This item here has been discussed previously, and there's more to the current agreement than simply the volume entering the site. Any consideration or reconsideration would require that the agreement has fixed costs involved with it that need to be considered as well. The town of Hanover generates more revenue from tipping fees, et cetera. So therefore, those fees, which I think Sherry mentioned are significant, would have to be assigned appropriately as well. And there's also value in simply having access to a landfill site, which is what Brockton needed at the time that arrangement was needed. So all of those things I think would need to be considered before we would ever enter into a renegotiation. And I would suggest that if Brockton wants to renegotiate that or to take a look at it, they would be required to hire a consultant and bring something forward if that is what they desire. But for me, there's a lot more to it than just the volume of material going across the scales, and I have no desire personally to see us renegotiate that. But if they want to, hire a consultant and come back with some proposal, we can certainly look at it. But that would be my position.
Thank you. Other comments, suggestions, options? Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just because I'm not, familiar or haven't been tracking, would we be able to see in a follow-up report the next time we talk about the item, kind of an overview, perhaps like a 5-year trend in, the waste that comes from each partner, just to kind of see if there's a trend? Because I would imagine that if there was any kind of revision to the agreement, we would want it to be based on whatever it is the last 5 years would be how it's apportioned, and then 5 years from now, perhaps it would change. But I'd be interested to see kind of how close or how far off the contributions are from each municipality.
And that exists, correct, Ron? And I believe is part of the annual report, if I'm thinking correctly, or is provided in the waste management minutes. There's somewhere that those types of numbers exist. So Ron, if you have something to add there, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, the tracking of the 5-year quantities and any sort of variance has been provided to the committee, and it is on an annual basis. And we've looked at that again at the start of this year.
So Councillor Cable, you'd like to see a report with those numbers?
Just to have a sense of that. I don't recall. Are we vastly different right now? Like, is it like Hanover is 70% and Brockton is 30?
60-40, is it not? Approximately. That's why they
Approximately,
sorry,
it's
they don't
in
mention-
we're in the 60s and they're in around the 40s. But when we look at a
Sorry, and when I say 60-40, I thought that was in their letter. It is not, and I'm mistaken by saying that. That's not what their request is. But I would assume that some of their ask around that is based on those statistics from a volume perspective, which Deputy Mayor Dickert has indicated there's more to it than just the sheer volumes.
Yes, because capital costs, if you change the capital costs, you change the entire agreement. you are no longer a 50-50 a partner, right? So if you're only a 40% partner, that changes everything. So I'm hearing we need an overview report with some numbers. And at that point, do you want to at least look at those numbers and then respond to Brockton, or respond to Brockton first?
I prefer to just simply say we are happy with the agreement as it is. If they want to pursue it farther, then that would be up to them to dig into that, spend the time and effort to familiarize themselves with all of the aspects of it, and then they can come back with a proposal that we might look at if that's what we want to do. But I don't really think we need to do anything more than what we are right now. Our chair of that committee does a great job of sharing those volumes and the capacities that are out there and when work needs to be done. I think everything's been very forthcoming and easy to follow. So the agreement is there. It is fair. As I said, there's fixed costs. There's a whole lot of other things that are involved here that simply saying we need cell 3 and this additional cost, there's more involved to it than just that. So I'm comfortable with just advising them that if they want to pursue it, they need to give us more information.
I'm seeing nodding heads. Anything else you need, Sherry?
No, I think that's good, unless I'll maybe just turn to Clerk Vicky here. Would that be best if we put that in a resolution, Vicky?
Through you, your worship, it would be better to have the motion made and give direction to staff.
So we have a record. Motions are always good. So are you preparing that motion, Vicky? Maybe you want Deputy Mayor Dickert to repeat what he said.
I can prepare one and just, if I have just 1 minute.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Richard. Question for Ron. Ron, I believe we actually had COBIDE go through this process for the fixed costs a couple of years ago, and was there not a report at that time that was shared with the committee?
The looking at fixed and variable costs is something that we actually had our BDO at the time. Our auditors, that's the correct word I was looking for. Our auditors go through and define on all the different components of it. There's fixed costs and there's variable costs.
Yeah, so like I said, we have done work on this in the past through that committee, and I believe when that information was presented, they didn't want to pursue that any further at that point in time. So I don't know if that information is still readily available, but it would be a starting point if at some point down the road we need to look further into that.
I will read the draft motion. That council directs staff to respond to the municipality of Brockton, that Hanover Council deems the agreement to be fair, and that should the municipality of Brockton wish to pursue renegotiation, a proposal with further information be provided to Hanover Council for consideration.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Fleet. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, item, you know, when my numbers are off, it really messes me up. Item 13, reports and correspondence for information. So the first one is report CAO 0725. The subject is the dissolution of the former Launchpad Skills Training and Technology Center, and it's from Sherry Walden, our CAO. Sherry.
Thank you, Worship. This report is for council's information to provide you with an update on the dissolution. So effective February 28th, 2025, the official dissolution documents were filed with the Ontario Business Registry and the Ontario Government, and Launchpad Skills Training and Technology Center ceased to legally exist. Since February 1st, any remaining assets, liabilities, etc., were transferred to the town as per the board motion. In the 2025 budget, council approved $95,000 to offset the former Launchpad loan outstanding and the 2023 deficit. It is estimated there's just shy of $665 left for the 2024 deficit. The report before you this evening provides estimated expenses to April 30th, 2025. So we have the 2024 deficit of approximately $27,860. The 2025 expenses to date, and that's to March 11th, and includes staff salaries and benefits, supplies and materials, lease to March, legal, as well as minimal utilities and property maintenance, which is approximately $33,855. We are projecting that the additional expenses to April 30th will be $16,300 less the additional revenue we project to April 30th of $7,800 for a projected total to the April 30th, 2025 date of approximately $70,204 in round numbers. Council's direction to staff was that the balance of the dissolution costs were to be covered from potential revenues generated from assets disbursement and general reserves. So again, this is provided for your information, so you know the status of the dissolution and the additional costs that the town will be covering through the general reserves.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Any comments or questions? Okay, report CAO 0925, the customer service portal update from Sherry Walden, our CAO. Sherry?
Thank you, Worship. So as you recall, as part of the organizational review, one of the recommendations was, there were 4 or 5 recommendations around process-related recommendations. And one of them was specific to the customer service portal, and just that we complete a review and possible redesign of that portal from the initial customer interaction to successful completion. The customer service portal, we began using it, or I shouldn't say we began using it in September 2022. That's when we first started working with Citywide to maintenance manager software, which is in our world called CMMS for acronym words. And it includes a suite of software that includes the customer service portal, the route patrol, as well as a work orders module. We completed a review on March 3rd with various staff involved. There were directors, there was frontline staff, etc. And it didn't take very long at all in that meeting to basically come to the conclusion that, well, we knew we were not using that suite of software to its full potential before going into the meeting. But it was very apparent during that meeting that we probably never would use it to its full potential because of the complexity and lack of user-friendly that we were finding for our frontline staff. So it was determined that the best solution for us would be to cease using the software and determine or investigate internal or department-specific options that would better serve our needs. Of course, we found out that that timing to make that decision was 30 days or more, but not much than 30 days, which sort of made us move into high gear. It was either that or we reinvest in this software for another year. Didn't make a lot of sense to do that. So we've focused solely on the customer service portal initially. We've developed an internal option to address and implement the online customer service alternative. And the key to this for our listening public is that our residents will not notice any difference. They will still have an online option. They will still be able to enter information via our website. The process remains virtually the same, except with a few tweaks. So the individual complete the web form, adding photos and documents. In fact, the solution we've been able to implement will have the ability to include more than just the photos, which I believe is the case with the software now. And they will receive an automatic reply when they enter their information. The town staff, so we've split it out that the various areas for comment or submission, there's a primary and a secondary staff contact. That email will go, that web form will go directly to those contacts. Okay. On a daily basis, our staff will be downloading from the back end of our website the information into a master tracking sheet. The assigned staff will be required to follow up with the resident or whomever by their preferred method of contact, whether that's phone or email, and then they will be updating the master tracking sheet accordingly. We believe the QR code that exists on our signage, our window clings at all our facilities will still be accurate. If not, it's not difficult to change that and have it updated accordingly. So again, our residents will see no difference. In fact, we believe it may be enhanced in some ways from a user perspective and a reply perspective. I've certainly experienced with our current software that as much as we provide replies through the software portal, that sometimes they end up in people's junk mail or they don't get delivered because it's not from a recognizable email address. So hopefully that will be enhanced for our residents. From a maintenance manager and from a work orders perspective and a route patrol perspective, we do not have alternatives at this time. Customer service was our most pressing need accordingly. From a financial implications standpoint, the annual cost for this suite of software for this year was $16,000 plus applicable taxes. We have seen a minimum of 5% increases since our 2022 implementation. While we will no longer have that annual cost, it is anticipated that the alternatives that I mentioned we don't have confirmed at this time may be required or may have fees associated with them, I should say, and that those potential savings we have from this suite of software may need to be reallocated to new software, new applications accordingly. The link to the strategic plan is open and responsible government. And again, this is for council's information, as well as our listening public who may be listening this evening. So as of April 1st, it's our intent to implement this process. And again, our residents should see no difference. We may experience some tweaks as a staff as we work through this, but accordingly, it will be no difference to our residents. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Sherry, for that report. I'm happy to see that it's going to look the same for customers. I've used it myself, and I believe in the past there was a 2-week deadline that the person had to get a response back from the town. Is that going to be in place still?
I think the automated generated reply just says that your request has been received. I don't know if it had a number of business days in that automatic reply. I would say we do better than 2 weeks. We're usually probably within 48 hours for the most part to any of those customer service. So I like having a timeline. It can depend on whether a person's on vacation as well. So we have to tweak that. We may have to tweak the generate a reply to the individual, but I would think we will be better than 2 weeks for the most part.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Sherry, will council have an opportunity to see this tracking form after it's been in use for maybe a month or so, just to see how it's going?
So Councillor Sago, we do have to kind of be cognizant that the information that we receive can be connected to certain areas of town and in fact certain individuals. And so from a privacy perspective, we do need to be cognizant of that. You know, if I'm a person who's entering something, there's a level of confidentiality that I trust is being maintained, and therefore you know, even if people, you know, we may think we've edited and retracted, but if there's even any little piece that might go, huh, I think that was Sherry Walden who entered that, then it could have detrimental impacts accordingly.
Thank you. That's absolutely understandable. So instead, let me rephrase that. If council could get a report on how it's going.
So a report on how we've survived, maybe we need to have 60 days to know, but sure, after 60 days, we could provide just an update, even verbally during counselor updates, maybe, you know, we've implemented and what we've learned. So.
Councillor Cabe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Sackle sparked my question. I'm just wondering, do we know what the conversion rate has been for residents? Like, are most residents who have a concern using the portal system, are most still calling in? Like, have we seen a very significant conversion to the online?
So one of our learnings during our staff debrief is how do I say this in a positive way? Like, I wouldn't say that every complaint, compliment, or whatever was being entered into the customer service portal. I would say we still get more phone calls than we do online entries, is my thinking. Because, for example, my garbage didn't get picked up today. Steph Smith is not entering those into the customer service portal. However, she might with this new, because it's going to be a little easier and a little easier to download that information. So my long-winded answer is no, we don't have that information. Accordingly, I would say most are still phone, quite honestly. They want to talk to people and share their concern, vent. Our staff are rock stars in that manner. I've experienced it through the snow. I had my eyes opened to customer service. I really did. And our staff are very patient and polite and yeah, they're rock stars. That's what I called them through a couple of our snow events.
Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is kind of in line with what Councillor Sacco was asking. You know, we get a quarterly report on bylaw activities. Could we see something similar to that just gives council an idea of what is coming in through that portal, what the high level overview of different categories maybe, you know, like is it garbage collection related, is it snow related, just so that we as a council have a feel for what staff is going through, I guess, and also what our residents are bringing forward. And I said, doesn't need a lot of detail, just it would be something, as I vision it, similar to the bylaw report that we get quarterly.
So Deputy Mayor Dickert, I'd suggest that could be done through a notice of motion, that you make that suggestion and we as staff can consider and bring back some thoughts on that for your consideration. I understand that's maybe how the bylaw report originated accordingly. And while I realize there's a precedent set with the bylaw report, I think it would be prudent for us to consider that through a notice of motion process.
Okay, that's it for that report. Moving on, we have the County of Grey, their Economic Development, Tourism and Culture Master Plan Annual Report. This is a really good report. I encourage our residents, if you can get online, take a look at it. One thing that we've heard quite a bit recently on page 11 of the report, Grey County has 4,500 square kilometers. That is the geographic size of Grey County. There are only 7 investment-ready sites in Grey County, which tells you that we got to get moving if we're going to attract business. Like with only 7, there's a lot of work to go into that. So anyway, it's a very good report. Lots of nice photos. It's colorful and good numbers in it. The next item, 13.4, is the Ontario Senior of the Year Award. And this award gives each municipality in Ontario the opportunity to honor one outstanding local Ontarian who, after the age of 65, has enriched the social, cultural, or civic life of his or her community. And we've done this every year for quite a few years. So if you know of someone, the deadline to submit, you can send it to Vicky or myself or Sherry. And the deadline is April 30th. If you know of someone who would be suit that award requirements. Sherry?
Just the April 30th, I believe, is the deadline. We have to have it to the province, correct, Vicky? So perhaps we need to just work our way back a little bit. Maybe
Mid-April.
yeah, because sometimes we have to search, like we need some info to be able to submit to that. So sorry, I'm just looking at my calendar here. Maybe we need to say by April 17th, which is just before Easter weekend, because then it's off of people's lists before the Easter holiday.
Councillor Hudson, did you have a comment?
Just wondering, I don't know who in the past has been nominated, so who would we ask? If we have an idea, who do we ask to see if
You mean
they-
nominated or received? Received.
Received,
Okay.
yes.
So Vicky has.
I have the information on previous recipients. So yeah, I can, yes.
Okay. Item 14, my numbers are back in order. Somehow. Councillor and staff updates or good news and celebration. Councillor Hawking was going to have the honors of starting. So we'll move over to Councillor Hudson if you have anything you want to share or pass.
I will just share that the Women's Day event that Wowza and Saugeen Economic Development put on March the 5th was an excellent evening. The food was great. The people that were there networking, they were all really wonderful to have conversations with. And the speaker in particular was excellent. Very off the cuff, very realistic, insightful. And a couple of points that I think would be worth mentioning for anyone, male or female, is that she emphasized on understanding your value and it being the first step in claiming your rightful place in any space. So I thought that was particularly a good thing, to not downsell, embrace your strengths, and advocate for yourself. So it was a great night, and I thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? Councillor Cable.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you to all the staff that were involved in putting together the Family Day festivities. It was a huge hit. Having on March break. I think that everyone that was there, it was really great to see how many families came out to participate. And certainly, it was great to see the turnout for skating, swimming, kids' activities, and of course, bingo. So thank you to all the Parks and Rec staff that made that possible. And congratulations to Bruce Gray Mentorship, who held its second coldest night of the year event on February the 22nd. And I was looking, it was definitely cold. Councillor Hudson and I were up on the main corner there at 7th and 10th for a while, and it was definitely a cold one. She had a good sign to go along with it. Looking online, it appears that they've raised close to $16,000 right now. So congratulations to Bruce Gray Mentorship.
Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too would like to thank the P&H staff for hosting the Family Day activities, and I'd like to make a special note about congratulating the high school lifeguards who worked at the pool during the March break. I had the opportunity to do aquafit classes. I saw them with mums and tots. And on the Family Day, they did such a great job. I want to say a special congrats and shout out to lifeguard Jenna Dick, who made a rescue when the pool was at capacity and a young man who jumped off the diving board ran into a little bit of trouble. A family shared with me that she was off that chair in the water. Another lifeguard popped into the lifeguard chair and it was seamless. And I think we have to be appreciative of the training that those lifeguards go through, whether they're full-time staff or high school students putting in time on March break. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Just a shout out to the Hanover Swim Club for a successful meet in Arena Region Championship. They had 62 podium finishes, so well done to the Hanover Swim Club. And the Hanover Firefighters Award Night, congratulations to everyone. It was well done. So that's all I have to report.
I'm still singing BINGO. I don't think is that our third year doing that? Or second? No, just for bingo. Oh. Just for bingo, but 120 people came out for bingo, so it was good. Good day. Okay, I'll ask staff. Sherry, anything?
So a couple of things. Actually, these are Mr. Cooper items, so I don't know, do you have a list, Mr. Cooper, out of curiosity? No? Yes? So water tower construction starts this week. In fact, I've seen on social media, someone talked about site trailer and rebar being on site today. So it started as of today. So that's going to be a really fun and exciting item to take shape in our community over the next 20 months. So that'll be exciting. I don't remember the 14th Street construction, although I was here for it. I don't recall it. So it's gonna be interesting to see this one. Landfill is closed tomorrow, Tuesday, March 18th, due to road flooding. We've just released some social media late this afternoon. So just for our listening public this evening, if you're planning to go to the landfill tonight or tomorrow, you might just want to hold off. And then the last thing that I will mention is just Wednesday, April 9th is our first Community Connects at 5 p.m. at the Community Hall across from the library. And this is in partnership with Hanover Public Library. And it will include mayor, council, of course, and our department representatives, our senior management team. So we're all in the same room together, and opportunity to share information with our residents and community members, and for them to ask questions. So unless, Mary, you want to add any more to that?
So I just want to share the idea is to connect with the community, and you may want to prepare a bit of who you are, because we will each have a couple of minutes to speak. Who you are, why you got into running for council, what you're passionate about, nothing long, whatever, just a few little items to personalize yourself with our community, and they may ask you questions. So
I am going to send a follow-up email with those items to council members. So I could see Councillor Sacco wanting to make notes, but I will send a follow-up email accordingly. And senior management team, they're doing 2-minute quick talks for the department, highlighting a little bit about who they are and what they do, but key projects for 2025. And they given them a very clear direction that it's no more than 2 minutes, and you need to practice your elevator talk, so to speak. And it really should be a great night for our residents. I believe it's going to be taped by Whiteman, so available for people to watch after the fact through their community channel, and potentially we may be able to post it on our website somehow. So
April or Ron, anything? Ron?
She stole my thunder. And I'm okay.
Okay, April. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Actually, it's a question for Sherry. Do we know, will there be an Earth Day activity so that Councillor Fleet and I can have a showdown again? Or
yes is the answer to that. Date, stay tuned. I don't think it's going to be on a Saturday this year, but I'm having to have some further conversations with Mayor Sue tomorrow about that. So Earth Day is Tuesday, Tuesday, April 22nd. So perhaps there's a hint in that, but I don't believe it's going to be a Saturday this year.
You're putting the challenge out already?
Challenge is on, Deputy Mayor Dickert. I've got a sharp team. I'm sure they're all going to be back. I'm sure Mr. Cable and Councillor Sacco and Councillor Hudson, she was a little bit slack, but I think I can work with her. So, but we'll be back. And the mayor jumped ship, so we'll let her go to your team.
We can be bribed. Okay, April.
Thank you. I would just like to bring to everyone's attention some events that are coming up, and all the information is available on hanover.ca community calendar. But this is more for our entrepreneurial network. As Councillor Sacco spoke to in our Economic, Tourism and Cultural Advisory Committee minutes, the Accelerate Now event is up and running and open for registration. So Accelerate Now is a program dedicated to connecting newcomers, refugees, immigrants, and international student entrepreneurs and startups, connecting them to existing resources, events, activities, mentorship, networking, and funding opportunities. So I'm pleased to share that Hanover was chosen through the Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center, which is ran out of Georgian College, to have the event in the southern part of the county. So we on March the 28th in the community hall here in the Civic Center from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Accelerate Now will be happening to empower newcomer entrepreneurs to thrive in Grey County. Our partners are, we're partnering with Southgate, Hanover, Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership, the Business Enterprise Center at Grey, Georgian College, and Catapult. So again, registration is free. So I encourage any newcomers to our area to sign up for that. And get connected to local business resources, and just also following up on WOWSA and what's coming up with that. And that's for all professional women and entrepreneurs. We have two great events coming up. So one is Celebrate Women in Business and film screening of She Rises Up. So that'll be on Tuesday, March 28th in Walkerton at the Legion. So it's celebrating the resilience and the innovation of women in our communities. This is a free documentary film called She Rises Up. It showcases female entrepreneurs that have broken barriers around the world. And then Thrive Together, it's a businesswomen networking night. That's on Thursday, April the 10th, and that's at Launchit and Minto. So there will be top 10 tips for networking, a business book swap, networking bingo, so you can come sing bingo, Mayor Patterson, advice exchange wall, and beverages and snacks. So again, I encourage everyone to check out those events and attend accordingly. Thank you.
Thanks, April. Councillor Hudson.
Sorry, April, can I just ask you a question? Did you say Tuesday, March the 28th for the first one?
March the 25th.
25th, okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to item 16. See, I got two different, one's 16, one's 15. Planning and other meetings, they're on the website and this agenda. There are two changes. One, the Police Service Board is meeting on the 28th of April rather than the 22nd. And the airport, Saugeen Municipal Airport, is meeting on April 16th. So dates to remember and announcements. The first one, next committee, the whole meeting is April 7th. The next regular council meeting is April 22nd. The special council meeting, which is the official plan review, is April 8th. And a Grey County Joint Council centralized planning meeting is March 21st. And of course, the Community Connects is April 9th. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Just the Grey County Planning meeting, we did need to change the Saugeen Mobility meeting. It was no longer at 10 in the morning. It'll be at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Right. Hey, geez, you change one meeting, they all change. All right, at this time, I'll ask if there's any notices of motion. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Yes, further to our discussion regarding the portal, I would like to ask staff to bring back a report proposal or whatever that might indicate what we might be able to see as far as a report on what information is coming in through the portal. It's pretty blundered, but that's the idea.
Got it. Okay. All right. We have a special meeting at 6:30. So I need a motion to adjourn at 5:59. Councillor Cable and Councillor Hudson, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.